Manchester United are somehow the worst team in football. Like, explain to me how they can have some really bad and poor results in the Premier League and in general in all competitions, lose to teams that they should be beaten, but still somehow only sit just 6 points behind the leaders, my beloved Arsenal, in the Premier League. And if that wasn't weird enough, just look at the situation they find themselves in the Champions League. They have now played 5 games in the Champions League this season, and yet despite some good performances, they find themselves at the bottom of a fairly easy-ish group, bar Bayern Munich, but the rest of the group is fairly easy-ish for Champions League standards. But what the hell is happened in the red half of Manchester? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Back of the Net here. I hope you're all doing well. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Now listen, United have been and will always be a talking point in the footballing world, a huge talking point. But to put into words just how, for the lack of a better word, just how bipolar Man United have been this season. I am just so confused by this team. Because when they're on it, let me tell you, they are probably one of the best free-flowing sides in all of Europe. But then equally in the same breath, when they are not on top form, they are shambolic and almost in complete disarray. Now, I'm not saying United haven't been able to win games when they aren't playing well, because they have done already this season. The 1-0 away against Fulham is a good example of that. But just explain to me how they can have such a good, energetic performance away at Goodison Park against Everton, who are doing fairly well in the league, and then go straight away 3 days later and go do that against Galatasaray, where they're 3-1 up and fairly comfortable, and then just absolutely shit the bed and draw the game. It feels like a loss for them. They just didn't look good. The moment that second goal went in for Galatasaray and it got 3-2, you just saw it on the United faces. Their heads dropped and they thought, we're in for another one here, and they drew the game 3-3. They played a game against Bayern where they lost 5-3, and it was some encouraging signs other than the defending. There were some encouraging signs, and people are going to sit here and blame Onana, and listen, Onana is to blame. He is a huge part to blame for the Champions League results that they have been getting. But equally, you can look at the way that United are defending, the way United are playing, the way United are doing everything. Explain to me how they can be doing so well in the Carabao Cup, in the Premier League. Like I said, they are only 6 points off Arsenal. 6 points. But then they can go into the Champions League. And like I said, it's not the easiest of groups, but for a Champions League standard, it pretty much is. I know you have Bayern Munich, but outside of that, you have Galatasaray, who yes, can pose a threat, but you should be winning one of the games at least, and maybe drawing the other at worst. And then Copenhagen, you should be beating them for both home and away games. United have been shambolic. I don't know what United do from here. I don't. And the thing is that Ten Hag really sometimes puts it on tactically and looks like an elite manager. But then again, 3 days later, goes out and gets tactically beaten, doesn't seem like he can hold the dressing room. Like, it's just so frustrating. And yes, I'm an Arsenal fan, so again, I can sit here and say, I don't really care. I'm happy United are struggling. But I'm a footballing fan, and I like seeing big teams doing well, or at least holding them to the standard that they should be held to. And United just haven't been playing up to that standard, and I don't know where it lies. It lies in the players, it lies in the manager, it lies everywhere. But what is the problem? Because we're going to sit here, and I know everyone's going to be blaming Onana, and like I said, he probably deserves the blame for that Galatasaray game. But oh my days, it's just... I don't know. I don't know what's going wrong with them, and everyone's going to say, listen, we are a good team, we just haven't showed it in Europe this season. No shit. You've been looking so good domestically. And then you're playing teams you should be beating, like Copenhagen, like Galatasaray. I know you beat Copenhagen once, but you're playing these teams and you should be beating them, and not just beating them. You should be looking quite comfortable. You should be looking a level above them. And let's just say there's a way that United now go beat Bayern in the last Champions League group stage game and qualify for the knockouts. They're not going to do anything in the knockouts. Regardless of who they get drawn up against, it's a long day for them in the Champions League. I just don't understand. And I am not a United fan. Thank fuck I'm not, because if I was, I'd be losing my head more than I am already. But it's just, I don't know what United do from here. I don't think it's the manager. I've made a video already about why I think Ten Hag is actually a decent manager, but you probably shouldn't be giving Ten Hag the say on transfers. But outside of that, I think with the players he gets given, he's a fairly decent manager. Now, is he the best manager out there? Absolutely not. Is he a top 5 manager right now? Absolutely not. He is a decent manager. And if United want to get better than decent, and let's say I wake up one day and Ten Hag has been sacked, I'm not going to be too mad at it. But I don't think he's the main one to blame anyway. He is one to blame because he is your manager. So of course his head is going to be on the chopping block. But it's just like top to bottom. You know what it reminds me of, this United team? They're not as bad, but it reminds me of the post-Wenger Arsenal. And not the way they play, because they're much better than that post-Wenger Arsenal, believe me. But it's just the softness that they have. They haven't got anyone that will say, you know what, cool, we've conceded. It's 3-2 now to us. Let's hold on. And they haven't got anyone that has that iron, that grit. They're just a soft team. And like I said, don't take my words out of context. They are much better than that post-Wenger Arsenal with Mustafi. They're much better. But they have the same softness that Arsenal team had. And that's a recipe for disaster. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what it is. Do they get scared or intimidated by the fact that they're playing European football? Because Everton's a good team. Everton have been really good this season, despite what a lot of people thought coming into the season. You go out and you don't actually just beat Everton. You smash Everton. Could have been 5 or 6. You beat them 3-0 away from home, looking comfortable. You then go to a Galatasaray game, another one away from home in Turkey, which I did say long time ago in my first video on the channel that a game in Turkey against Galatasaray is not easy. But the way that you crumbled, the way that United crumbled, just doesn't sit right with me. And I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I just really don't know what United do from here. I don't. It's a topic that I'm sure everyone's going to have a different opinion on, but I think the main problem is just the way the club is run. The problem with it, the softness that the players are allowed to have. I mean, if you look at it, under Ferguson, if his players did this, a lot of them won't be playing a game for another month or 2. You have to be hard. You have to have the iron, especially in Europe. When you're playing these tricky teams that could pose a threat to you, you have to have that iron. You have to have that grip mentality that when I grew up, I was so used to United having. They just don't have that anymore. They don't. And people are going to say Bruno shouldn't be the captain. And I'm not saying I don't agree with you, but I don't think that's the biggest issue here. I think the way that they buy in players out of talent, and it doesn't make sense to me how you can have so many veterans in your team, so many Champions League winners. And yes, they might not all be playing, but they can instill that mentality into your team. How they're all there in that club, and there's just a softness about them. They remind me of a young, let's say an under-19 team that's gotten thrown into the fire and has to go play Galatasaray away. That's what they look like. They're a talented bunch of players. Let's not get that twisted. Every player on the United team, most players on the United team, are really talented players and could put in a shift at many clubs around Europe. But I don't know if it's their mentality, or I don't know. They are way too soft. They allow teams to get back into games when they shouldn't be doing that. It's just disarray. It's shambolic all around from top to bottom for United. I don't know what they do from here. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about the United situation? Am I overreacting? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.